Hey everyone, we're back. Welcome to GSA Schedule's Federal Buyers Set Aside Training Part 2, How Buyers Spend to Your Advantage. I'm Michelle Brown with Federal Certifications and Training Programs through FedBizNow and FedBiz Exchange. So let's get right into Part 2 of this. So we're going to talk about how buyers spend to your advantage specifically. So in part 2, we'll discuss how the federal government spends with small businesses, which is extremely important to you, how much they spend with small businesses under the GSA schedule, how they spend with small businesses in certified categories, because you can use both. You can actually use your certifications, if you have any, with your GSA schedule. What that means is that if you are, for instance, a WOSB or you're a woman-owned small business, you can also use the advantage of your WOSB along with your GSA schedule. Or if you are a veteran, you could use that along with your GSA schedule, because I'll talk to you a little bit more about this, but the advantage for them to work with someone that has 2 certifications like that is huge for them. They're actually crossing off certain areas that they have to meet goals in. They have to meet women-owned business goals. They have to meet veteran goals. They have to meet 8A goals. They have to meet hub zone goals. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But those things are to your advantage. And even if you are just a small business with no other certifications, that's a status that you can use. That is to your advantage. And then number 4, what percentage buyers are required to spend with small businesses? And number 5, I actually give you some examples of small businesses, actual real businesses that win contracts with their GSA schedules, but they win other contracts too. So let's talk about the federal government. Every single year, the federal government spends $400 billion and sometimes more. I don't care how many fights you hear about the government having with, the different parties and all of that. It doesn't matter. The government is not going away tomorrow. They buy the same things primarily over and over again. However, there are sometimes new requirements, and you'll see that sometimes when you're doing your research. New requirements means that this is something new that they're purchasing. And a lot of times that happens with different products, technology, building new things, different ideas that they get actually from small businesses and big businesses too. So sometimes you'll see new requirements, meaning they've never ordered it before, but it doesn't matter. They spend $400 billion every single year and sometimes over. Not to say that, they're not fighting about the budget, but this is the budget. And this is just the contracting dollars. This does not include the government spending dollars, the other government spending dollars like the grants or the federal dollars that are spent to help with hurricanes. That's not even including those dollars. So if you are in business and you have a business that where you are on the list for the government to contact a business like yours if there is a major hurricane or an earthquake or something like that, you could be getting dollars from both pots, because that's disaster recovery when we have a hurricane or something like that. And that doesn't even include the contracting budget that I'm talking about with the $400 billion. Okay, so keep that in mind. This kind of spending. I know some of you, depending on your politics or how you see government, may not like this, but this is the way of the world. So we'll deal with that other part later. But today, if you are in business, you should be getting some of this money because the government buys every single thing that you can think of and more. So We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars spent every single year. And this includes using GSA schedules. Remember I said 40 billion was spent through GSA schedules last year. So in 2017 all the way through today, 2018, the federal contract spending looks like this. Small businesses through GSA schedules have received $14 billion from 2017, October 1, 2017, no, excuse me, October 1, 2016 is the fiscal year for 2017. You need to remember the fiscal year always starts at the end of the previous year. So the year of fiscal for 2017 was October 1st, 2016 through October 1st through 2017. So, and most of you know this, but I just want to remind you, we find that sometimes people will bombard our classes right around the end of the year. And that's good if they understand that they need to take what they learn in December and apply it immediately because the new fiscal year has already started. So if you're just getting into a classroom, or even now, I mean, we're already going into the third quarter. We're not there yet, but we're going into the third quarter fiscal year for federal government. So it's important that people understand you need to get started right around the end of the year, September 2018, you should start preparing for 2019. Okay? And, I mean, if you're doing it now, then you will be ready for 2019. At least you're getting it early. But people pile in thinking that they're going to get all the information. It takes a month or two for you to get this moving, so you don't want to wait. But anyway, 2017 fiscal year all the way through current 2018 fiscal year, GSA large companies received $14 billion already. Okay? Now, so far, we, the small business community, under GSA has received about 4.6 billion so far. So that just tells you there's a lot more to be spent before the end of the year. So 2018 ends October 1st, or actually I should say the day before, September 30th, 2018. Fiscal year is done. No more. And by the way, there's a lot of spending activity that happens right before the end of the year. So right after the summer months, when you start going into August, July, those kind of timing periods, you're going to see a lot of money being spent during those times. So if you're training right now, you want to get ready. So keep it moving because you're going into the third quarter. And by the time you get to the fourth quarter, hopefully you will have won something. Now let's talk about what the set-asides look like. Remember I mentioned there's 23% of all contracting dollars that must go to small businesses, including GSA federal schedule contracts. Now they can go over, but they have a hard time meeting the 92 billion sometimes. In general, we looked at, and this does include GSA. This is not all GSA, but total small business spend was $95 billion last year, which is a little over the 23%. For women-owned businesses, it was 22.7 billion. For veteran-owned businesses, this includes service-disabled veterans, it was 24.1 billion. For hub zone businesses, it's 6.2 billion. They need a lot more hub zone businesses, by the way. 8A businesses, it was $21.4 billion being spent. So total small business in general, that means even uncertified businesses. So if you don't fall into one of these four categories, you still are part of this total small business picture. So that's how much was spent in 2017 fiscal year with small businesses, including GSA. A lot of money, right? $95 billion, that's an awful lot of money. And that doesn't even include the disaster spending. Remember that. So this is what it looks like. Federal agency small business set aside goals. This is the goal for the entire country, meaning the SBA has by law for many years has worked with all of the federal agencies that receive contracting dollars, and they decided that by regulation the federal government should ensure that small businesses are receiving 23% of the federal contracting dollars. So that would be women-owned businesses receiving 5%, service-disabled veteran businesses receiving 3%. I'm surprised that's not a little bit higher, but right now it's still at 3%. And veterans, by the way, are doing much better by bidding, and they're starting to win a lot of those contracts because there's a special effort to help them get these federal dollars when it comes to their businesses. So they're doing a great job, and I have to give it to the government. They are really putting those set-asides out there for them. So service disabled veterans and veterans, that would be 3%. And then 8A and and small disadvantaged businesses. 8A is part of the small disadvantaged business. Okay, so those are one and the same. They include 8A, but that's 5% total. So small disadvantaged businesses plus 8A businesses get 5% of the 23%. HubZone gets 3%, and then all small businesses together. So if you are a uncertified business, you don't have any certifications, you still are part of the pot that gets the 7%. But that totals the 23%. And this is how all of the agencies are looking at their numbers. Each one of them have to work towards their agency goals in each of these 1, 2, 3, 4 categories. Okay, 5 categories actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be the total small business category included. So that's how the 23% is split up. So if you're part of one of these, remember I said if you're woman-owned, you can use that in conjunction with your GSA. Any additional certifications are always helpful because they help them check 2 boxes instead of 1. But even if you're just a small business, that's still a major checkbox. So let's just look at what the research shows. I didn't just pull this out of my hat. This comes from the research that I want you to do. So it shows that small disadvantaged businesses between 2017 and 2018 under GSA, they received this 4.6 billion. This is from a report, USA spending report. That's how I know these things. And when I see these letters over here, I know that because this is how GSA contracts come out. Now, I'll tell you what those zeros mean, but even though it says 4.6 billion, remember, or I should tell you for those of you that don't know, this is an action-oriented report, meaning just because you don't see a large dollar amount for every single hit does not mean that these companies are not getting their full share. So this could be for A Street Collision, just as an example. They could have a $50,000 contract through their GSA. But the only time this report shows anything is when they hit the contract, meaning there's an action taken. You see this number of total transactions? If I were to pull this entire report, I would see all of the total transactions taken through this one contract awarded to A Street, and I might see not $3,791, I might see $40,000, especially if I pull a new report today. Every time they make a purchase, it's like an open contract. Every time they pull money out for an item, even if they didn't use it all at once, it gets on this report. So I'll talk to you a little bit more about that just to make sure that you guys understand. But if you want to see the full contract, you could go to a different report. It's called FPDS. It doesn't give you a lot of information. It just tells you the total value of the report. So I could take this ID number right here and look it up and see what the full contract award was for this particular item. But if you show up on this report, that means you're getting paid. That means that someone has a contract with you, whether they used it today or they're going to use it tomorrow or next week, they have committed to a contract with you through your GSA schedule. Same thing with the large companies. So you see with the large companies, there is 14.3 billion. Now, some of the smaller businesses could show up on this report as well, because maybe they compete in the same categories with the large companies. There are some situations where it's okay and smart for you to compete with the large businesses if you know you can win, or if you have a specialty product or service. So that's up to you. What I'm trying to teach you is your best place to start winning, unless you are specialty, would be in the small business arena. Now it looks like this particular report still shows A Street included, because A Street probably has something that the government likes, and maybe they have a specialty. There's a reason for this, but this would be all of the large businesses that have received contracting dollars through their GSA schedule. But sometimes you will see small businesses included in a large business report, because again, maybe they competed under full and open competition. Full and open competition means that all of the companies, no matter what size you are, can compete. That's where you can see 100 offers, or 99 offers, or 50 offers. But if it is a small business set aside, that's where your competition is limited. That's why you don't want to go and compete with the full and open with the large companies unless you have to. If it's a set aside, you might see 5 competitors, 1 competitor, 2 competitor, maybe 10, but you will not ever see a large number of competitors the way you do when you're dealing with full and open competition. So you need to understand the difference. So I'm talking to you about set-asides and why you should make sure that you know what's going on in the small business arena for your industry, because that's an easier place for you to win, unless you have a specialty offering. And so, as an example, I just want to talk to you about security guard services. Some of you know that I do comparisons, and I do some videos on different types of businesses that if you are in one of these industries, you should be doing federal contracting. Security guard services is one of those businesses. It just happens to be a very lucrative business for all of the agencies, not just Homeland Security, you would think, but all of the agencies have to have some level of security, and I just learned that myself. So I used them as an example because I was fascinated with the number of small businesses that are getting major contracts in this arena. And as you can see, this is $1.4 billion so far that has been spent since last year of 2017 all the way through today. This is guard services just for small disadvantaged businesses. Okay, that's a lot of money. And I went even further to look at the different agencies. Like if you look over here, here are the funding agencies and the awarding agencies. The awarding agencies is what you want to pay attention to when you start doing your research. So you're going to pull a report by downloading this button, but the awarding agency is where the dollars and the decisions are flowing. The decisions are here. Funding agencies, they can sometimes be the same, but sometimes they're not. But you're concerned with the awarding agencies because that's where the decisions are made. That's where the federal buyers are. So you have the winning company, the awarded company for the contracts over here to the left. You have the award ID, which is the contract number, and you have the dollar amount, not for the entire contract. Remember what I said. It is not the entire contract. It is just the every time that the buyer goes in to make a purchase out of that contract, or they make a decision to hire, let's say this is for guard services. So let's say the contract is for $2 million. They needed to purchase $1,355 worth of services. So that's going to show up on this report. They did it on 7/27/2017. We know it's a contract. We know the awarding agency is DOD. So that's how you read this report. But when you download this, you're going to see so much more. You're going to see exactly what the service was for, whether it was for a specific location, what state it was in, what what was the company doing when they got that opportunity? Meaning, was it just to put 2 or 3 people in a certain place, or was it to go and check out a facility, or was it for uniforms? What was it for? You need to know exactly what it was for. When you download this report, you'll see exactly what it was for, and I will show you what that looks like in our next training. So with that said, I chose a few companies that actually have GSA schedules because I want to show how they use their schedules in addition to their other certifications. So in this case, a business profile that I took from my research was Alante Security Group. They're a small disadvantaged business. They're Hispanic owned. They have a GSA schedule, and then they also offer these types of services, security guard services, and then they also offer physical security and badging services. So why is that important? Because you could easily look at this and decide, okay, we offer all of those things, but do I have these keywords in correctly? That's another conversation, but you need to pay attention to this. This is why I give you this profile. The number of employees, they have 150 employees, and that sounds like it makes sense because they are basically a security staffing company. So they have to have a lot of employees. Their annual revenue is about 4.5 million on average. The contracts they've been awarded, and I only looked at the last few years. They were awarded contracts in 2018, 17, and 16, and their primary NAICS code used is 561612. Why is that important? Because if you're in security guard services and you have a GSA schedule, you better make sure that you're using this code. And even if you are, you need to look at some of these description words and terms as well. Okay, so also we have the PSC codes that most of you never use. You don't even know what they are. PSC codes are product service codes. They're in your SAM. You could actually go in your SAM and put in your product service codes. And why do you want to have those in there? Because product service codes give very clear, much more clear than NAICS codes. They give very clear descriptions of what you do. And when you see your competitors using specific product service codes, you need to use them too. You know why? Because they know something that maybe you didn't know. These are the codes that the federal buyers are using. They're using 561612 and they're using S as in Sam 206. So at minimum, if you have a security guard business, you need to have those codes in there. And they need to be in your SAM, and they also need to be in your small business dynamic search profile. So let's just take a look at what Alante has been able to accomplish. So they are located in New York, and for 2017, as you can see right here up at the top to the right in the middle at the top, 2017 fiscal year, they did about 8 million under 77 transactions. That means, even though they won $8 million, and I don't know if that was just from one agency or more than one agency, their contracts were hit 77 times. So they got $8 million out of that 77 transaction, profile. So again, remember what I said when you're looking at these. You want to look at the total number for the year. So they won $8 million in contracts for 2017. 2000, which year is this? 2016, they actually won another $8.5 million. Now, this is a chart that comes up on every business. So when you start winning, there'll be a chart on YouTube. Because this is the public's money, even though most people don't even know these reports exist, the government is not the only entity that uses the report. People can actually look to see how the government money is being spent. So your information will be out there as well. I hate to tell you that. Some people are uncomfortable with that, but most people don't care because they're doing extremely well, and they're not going to give, your very intricate details, but the public has a right to know how the government is spending money. So in 2016, we know that this security guard company won another $8.5 million. And then in 2015, they actually won $17.1 million. That's a lot of dough. That is really, really good. Now, it does show that they go up and down a little bit, but the fact of the matter is that they probably need to get back on their game and figure out what were they doing well. Remember I talked about that tracking? If I were the CEO of this company, I'd be a little annoyed that we actually did that much in 2015, but yet every year we went down after that. Because remember what I told you about security guard services. The purchasing, the buying activity hasn't gone down for security guard services. It has actually gone up. We have more crazy people in this country. We have more activity going on. We have more of the federal agencies needing security guard services. These are not policemen. These are security guards. Some of them have guns, some of them don't. But that's something to think about. So these folks, they need to get back to the grind and figure out what they did well in 2017 so that they can get back up to 20 million or 17, 15 million like they were before. Hopefully they realize that by the end of this year, 2018, they'll be back up. So here we are looking at current 2018. Thus far, they've been awarded 4.9 million. And again, like I said, they've gone down since 2015, but hopefully their CEO, their visionary, and their leadership team will get it together and they will start doing just as well as they were doing back in 2015. With that said, that's it. But if you want to take a look at companies out there, go and look and see who their primary sources are. Who are they primarily doing business with? You'll see that when you do the reporting, and that's why it's so important for you to do your homework. So if I were Alante or any other security guard company, you know what I would do? I would go and look and see who have we been doing all of our business with, who have we been focusing on, who have we've been paying attention to, and who have we not been paying attention to, because there's so much more money out there for them to make. They're doing extremely well, but they can do even better if they go do their homework. With that said, let's move on to part 3. Thank you for joining me in part 2. I'm Michelle Brown, and I'll see you in the next video.